Yeah, that's a great question. We had a CFO say to us the other day, and we checked it. Of course, we did we went out and did some research on our own. But the CFO said, I bet we haven't done a top to bottom audit of all of our spend because some of these companies are big and old, and some of them are doing well. When you're doing well too, that's you kind of referred to that a minute ago. When you're doing well, you might have less of an incentive. But here's what the CFO said. She said, I don't think we've done a top to bottom audit of all of our spend in over 15 years. It turns out when you do the research, you never see in the research months or days, you see years. It's been years since companies actually do a top to bottom of every contract, every invoice. So to your point, imagine this. What our offering does is we're doing that every day in real time, every day. We're looking at every contract, every invoice, every detail. And my joke, and this will be fun for this audience, and I do say this to some clients because they love it. We build a C3po for your spend. It never forgets anything, speaks multiple languages, if you will, speaks multiple spend category languages at the intersection of every industry. That's important. So in other words, a hospital, and we love the hospital clients because it's easy to understand what you're really doing there and who you're really serving, the patients and the frontline workers. But the hospitals speak a different language. And so if you're building a C3PO for a hospital, it needs to speak their vernacular so they can use it quickly without changing all the underlying systems. So 24/7 a day per day, it's learning. Here's the best part. Clients are very sophisticated. All of them are. Here's what they say. I don't even want to have to ask it questions. I want the C3PO to come back to me when it sees something wrong. So it's true. You need to ask it questions for a year to be simple. 6 months, a year, everybody asks questions. And then sure enough, that brain will come back and say, I found this today. And clients really understand what the power of this can be. They just have to trust that it really is going to work and that it's accurate and low cost.
Well, that's what we all want. We want that proactive brain out there. I was as I mentioned, I was in telecom for a long time, and there was a whole industry kind of around billing errors and kind of what you're doing too, the procurement and making sure that your telecom bill was correct. And um, and I also remember getting, literally an AT&T bill on a pallet once.
Yes,
We were buying wholesale at the time, so it was a lot. There
right.
were a lot of calls, but the fact that you had to go through that and then trying to figure out what was a billing error and all of that. And I imagine that, vendor billing errors are still a significant part of what SpendBrain is catching. How sophisticated is that problem on the vendor side?
Well, there are all kinds of stats. So we have our own stats because we're processing a lot of data every day. There's a lot of research stats. I do believe that this quote around 40% of all invoices across all categories have errors. That stat is holding true for us internally. 40% of some kind of error. It doesn't necessarily mean that 40% of invoices have a cost reduction opportunity or an error, where they're being overbilled or underbilled, but there's some type of error. And our job, of course, now with AI is to detect all of those errors. To your point, vendors, when they discover that we're involved with a client, they are very interested. Vendors, we are not acrimonious with vendors. Vendors employ a lot of people. They feed a lot of families. They do want to have more accurate bills and more accuracy and a deeper relationship. So we have vendors that have also adopted SpendBrain, by the way. That sounds strange, but we have vendors actively seeking us out to adopt the same capability for them so that they can have an accurate view of what's going over to their clients. So the world is catching up fast.
Yeah.